Legendary items are named this way because they interact with mythics. So mythics have a mythic passive that gives you about 150 gold worth of stats per legendary in your inventory. Now I want to point out that fully upgraded support items count as legendaries. I don't believe boots do, but they are kind of ensuring. They're trying to ensure that they've got a bunch of items that are priced at about 3,000 gold, and that these are the other 4 big items you put in your inventory. You cannot stack mythics, so you have legendaries. And so they're kind of intentionally tuned as items you buy second, or, and then third, fourth, fifth. Like, I kind of like the sort of tuning levers that Riot gave themselves by saying, well, you're never going to really rush a legendary, so let's go here. Each legendary essentially has an extra 100 gold worth of stats on it, or 200 gold worth of stats on it because of the mythics. That's a little fuzzy because you don't want to double count, but either way. So we're going to start with new marksman items. We have the Collector. The Collector offers marksmen more aggressive options when they find themselves facing squishies. So it is attack damage, crit, and lethality. Notice no attack speed. Now, crit is a little awkward to buy on someone like Talon or Zed, but you could do it. It is certainly a lethality item, but I'm thinking of, champions like Jhin or Senna, or even Caitlyn, who's going to play a little bit spellcastery. This is AD crit, and lethality is a good damage modifier. It is. If you're going to end up killing backline, this is solid. Dirk, pickaxe, cloak, a little bit of gold, 20 crit per item, of course. If you would leave an opponent below 5% max health, you execute them. Champ kills, grant 25 bonus gold. So 5% Culling Strike is nice. It helps guarantee. It is obviously a good Darius thing. I don't know if it gives you your ult reset if you miss, but maybe. I don't think non-physical champions will poach this because lethality and AD just cost too much to ever want to go for it. I mean, this thing will never be poached by a mage ever. There's like no way. Rengar is going to feel decent about it. If you auto-attack a lot, you'll feel less bad about the crit. But overall, it is, again, a weaker stat than before. Overall, I mean, pretty solid stuff. This is a, pretty fun item. We'll do item by item gold efficiency because we're not really grouping them very much anymore. So the Collector. The Collector is reasonably gold efficient. And what I'm basically doing is, okay, you're paying 220 gold for the death and taxes. Sure. Yeah. This seems about fine. AD, crit, lethality. This is not an item you'll really rush, right? It's not terribly gold efficient. But 5% Culling Strike, I mean, if you consider a 2,000-3,000 health tank, maybe. Now, you wouldn't really want to buy lethality against them, but even a regular champion has 1,500 health or so. 5% of 1,500 is pretty good. We're going to just... It's 75 damage, right? You, at some point, do 75 to 100 bonus damage per kill. It's not a ton, but you're getting 25 gold back. It can eventually pay for itself. 10 kills is a lot of kills to get in a game. I think this item is a little bit overrated. I don't super love it. Navori Quickblade is basically a little bit old Essence Reaver. But it allows you to be a spell-casting crit marksman, right? This is very much a Jhin Senna kind of item. The one downside is there is an attack speed synergy here because your critical strikes reduce your cooldowns, and Jhin and Senna both have very low attack speed. But, yeah, interesting stuff. Master Yi, by the way, will not buy this item. I guarantee you he will not buy this item. More on that later. Either way, though, Warhammer, Pickaxe, Cloak of Agility, just here's 20 more ability haste. If Caulfield's Warhammers could stack, I think this build path should be Warhammer, Cloak of Agility. I don't know if that's unique or not. I think it shouldn't be. Trinity is going to love this a lot, of course, because you want to get your spins back up more often and whatnot. Kog'Maw will also never buy this item, and we'll see why later on down the line. On-hit characters will not buy Quick Blades. I can tell you that confidently. Either way, maybe this is Ashe gets her W back more often. She gets more Hawk shots. Actually, there's some really abusive stuff, by the way. Like, think about Ashe, right? Hawk shot is a long cooldown. She just sits there auto-attacking minions, just gets Hawk shot back, and it's just, hey, look, I'm kicking Baron again. You can hit minions, right? You can literally just hit minions and go for it. Darius? Sure, right? Get Apprehend back, just hit some minions for a while. We're in there. Quick Blades, what's it cost? Well, great gold efficiency. And this is with us undercosting ability haste. This item is sick. AD crit, if you want the haste, this item is big pog. Yeah, it's very expensive, 3,400, sure. And, you know, you could argue that 30 haste and 15 AD is not as good as 18 lethality. I think that's wrong. Okay, it's a more expensive item here on Quick Blades, sure, but this item looks super pog. This item looks great. I'm about it. That looks super nice. Force of Nature is back. Force of Nature is move speed MR. So we get Negatron Cloak, we get Winged Moonplate, which is incredibly overpriced, Ruby Crystal, and some gold. And we get health, MR, move speed, and absorb. Taking damage from abilities, not auto attacks, has to be abilities. Gives you 6 move speed and 4 MR, up to 5 times, which is 30 move speed and 20 MR. So free boots in a long team fight. Whew. Here we are, Force of Nature. Well, not gold efficient by itself. And some of that is because, again, move speed is a pretty cheap stat. Functionally, boots are overpowered. Like, we know this to be true. Boots are, in fact, overpowered. That's why everyone buys them. Every single game. Every champion always buys boots. Cassiopeia, yeah, sure, duh. But every champion always buys boots, right? So move speed is a very cheap stat. So playing by gold efficiency is a little fraudulent, but it's still true. This item is, of course, 144 gold per stack. And just to be clear real quick, percent move speed is costed out about the same as boots of speed. Like, it's in the same ballpark. So this is, you know, if boots cost this, percent move speed costs this. It's actually pretty fair. Bless me, thanks. So there is a little bit of XD because obviously this is undercosted. But on the other side of it, like, if we actually get it fully stacked and we get 30 move speed and 20 MR, the item is gold efficient. But again, 30 move speed and 5% move speed are cheap stats. They are better than their cost implies. And if you think you're going to pretty reliably fully stack Force of Nature, this is a efficient item with cheap stats. This is not a bad item. It's a little specific, though. I'm not, like, my instinct is still this item is kind of weak, to be clear. That is still kind of my instinct. But I don't think it's trash. Next up, Serpent's Fang. We get an on-hit damage against shields. So it is Serrated Dirk Pickaxe. It is pure AD. It doesn't have to be an on-hit item. Basic attacks and abilities deal 50 bonus damage to shields. And with a very aggressive ratio, by the way, it takes 125 bonus AD to get there. That's not hard. That's Serpent's Fang plus any lethality item. So it's really, by the time you buy this item, it's 100 damage to shields. Straight up. Like, this item comes out of the box, 100 bonus damage. I want to be clear about that, right? This item comes out of the box at 100 bonus damage. So this is, I'm going to kill squishies, and I'm going to break down that Janna shield. I'm going to break down that locket by doing 100 bonus damage, 100 bonus damage, and then we're gone. It still absorbed the first couple things a little bit, but... So what do we got going on here? Serpent's Fang. Well, not gold efficient, right? Not a gold efficient source of attack damage and lethality. 2,800 gold. These stats cost as much. I think these costs are reasonably fair. But hey, you know, it's 50. It's really more like 100, maybe. You know, in the real world, it's actually 100. And look, if you could get a permanent 100 on hit damage, yeah, this thing would obviously be just terribly absurd. But it's not, right? This is going to function 10% of the time. Maybe less. Doesn't work against minions ever. Doesn't work against jungle monsters ever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it deals damage to the shield. It breaks the shield early. I mean, functionally what you're doing is you're doing about 200 bonus damage because your opponent got a shield. Oh yeah, Scuttle Crab gets a shield. Yeah, okay, technically, yeah, you're right. This actually affects Scuttle Crab. Good point. It's like the one use, right? But this is basically do 200 bonus damage the item every time they get shielded. So when someone has, right? Remember the AD carry item with the shield on it? Gone. You get 200 damage, right? Because you're going to hit them with two things. The shield's going to pop. Actually, heck, maybe they've got their level 18. It's a 700 or 500 or whatever point shield it actually is. This is like 300 bonus damage. Duskblade does 100. This does 2 to 300, right? This is more than Duskblade to your target if your target is shielded. If they got a Lulu, they got a Janna, they got a Karma. This is, and by the way, like, think about Karma AoE shields and you just like Talon ult. You get 100 damage per champion with Serpent's Fang. That is good, right? That is very, very good. What's next? Horizon Focus, Damage Amp. This item is absurdly inefficient. Let's talk about it. 3,000 gold, 100 AP. That's not close. Extra Cultinator, needlessly large rod, 700 gold. A damage good champion with a non-targeted ability at long range, and over 750 is not even that far. Like a Mystic Shot is 1,100 or something. Or immobilizing them. So root or stun, so like Maokai W counts. Zac E should count. If it triggers Aftershock, it counts this, right? Reveals them and increases their damage taken from you by 10%. So a 10% damage amp is, again, about 15 flat to 15% magic pen. That's like roughly the numbers. So let's talk about this, okay? Horizon Focus, bam. Okay, so what is... Now, there's a couple ways to look at this, right? So 15 times... 15 times magic pen is about that. Yeah, like, I think this item is probably not good. Karthus ult probably does count. It is non-targeted, and it's at over 750 range. But here's the thing, okay? It's case by case a little bit, okay? Because here's the thing. Just getting 15% magic pen, okay, this is a little wishy-washy. Like, this is not really quite true. I believe this counts the item itself. I think it does count the, like, I think the damage goes into Horizon Focus. I believe that is true, but I could be wrong about that. Karthus is targeted? Is it really? Is Karthus R targeted? I don't feel like it counts as targeted. Maybe it is, actually. Maybe it is. Jin W, but you're buying 100 AP. So you're not buying it on Jin. Teemo Shrooms. So what's interesting is, I don't remember what I was looking at, but I know going through some of the tooltip stuff that was online, like there's someone who ran lawshop.gg, had the actual in-game tooltips of items, and Horizon Focus said non-traps. It specifically said non-trap. In the actual item tooltip. So it literally, by definition, does not work with Teemo R. Yeah, it's non-trap, non-pet. So Zyra is a no. Anti-tippers running across the map is a no. Shaco Box is a no. It's Xerath. It's Vel'Koz. It's... you could convince me that 100 AP is okay on Ezreal. But... And here's the thing about Zoe, though. Zoe has to jump forward to land her Q. Now, Zoe may be outside of 750, but she's frequently not. Right? Syndra R, walk away, doesn't count. It's not targeted. Nidalee Javelin counts, but only for that ability. But then the amp is on for 10 for 10% for 6 seconds. I am not convinced this item is good. I think if the item is good, it's because we're sleeping on the reveal being good. Because it gives you the option of throwing a Xerath Q over the wall and being like, I hit him. Let's ult. That's where this item is decent, right? Is I had landed, because keep in mind, right? It's non-targeted of 750 or immobilizing. You can immobilize at short range, right? I can Maokai W someone and this counts. So I take back the Zoe part, because if they get slept, it's on, right? If sleep lands, Hypershot's active, Zoe can do 10% bonus damage. Darius presses E, immobilized, 10% bonus damage. Right? So it's damaging at 750 or immobilizing them. That is how I'm reading this. And I think that's true. I'm going to guess Maokai probably counts as a pet or a trap, honestly. So if I just land Q with Lux, got him. there are a lot of abilities that do not reveal, right? So every ultimate that's cross map reveals. Senna does it, Ashe does it, Ezreal does it, Jinx does it. The basic abilities do not, though. And so that's where it can get really exciting, is if you can, Lissandra Q might be able to reach, actually, the full splash might be 750. You might get Horizon Focus off like Lissandra Q. Obviously, just landing Lissandra W is an outright route. I don't know if this reveals in Viz, but this, by the way, lets you play Lissandra or whomever, and there's a, Zed running around, Talon running around with Duskblade, and you're like, no, I see you. Get over here. That's a possibility. So there's some gameplay here, but the item is very, very, very inefficient. Now, one final thought that I want to give out, okay? It costs about 350 ability power to double your damage, which means it costs 35 ability power to add 10% more damage. This is roughly true for most mages. Roughly true. We're using a rule of thumb here. It's close enough. The later on you go, the more AP you have, the more devalued ability power is. So if you're trying to find ways to amplify your damage, a 10% damage amp is worth at least 760 ability power. 760 gold, I should say, in ability power, which, it gets us pretty close at this point. As a late game damage amp, Hypershot is not inefficient compared to just buying a stat stick. Now, you still may want other passives more. You may still want health. You probably want Void Staff instead. You probably want Death Cap instead. You probably want Rylays instead. You may want all these other things instead. But as a standalone item, it can stand on its own two legs in a fairly late game scenario. Shyvana E would totally count here, yes. Let's move forward. Cosmic Drive is an ability haste stick. 3,000 gold, Fiendish Codex, Kindle Gem, Amp Tome, 70 AP, 200 health, 30 haste, and hey, by the way, dealing damage with abilities grants you 10 move speed for 4 seconds. And hey, if you have maybe 100 ability haste, you've really stacked it, it's 30 move speed for 4 seconds. And in fact, by the way, this is literally always 16 at least. And if you're buying this item, you probably bought a mythic with haste on it, so you're probably more like 19 to 20 move speed for 4 seconds. Not trash, right? This is some move speed, right? Here's 20-ish move speed. It's a 5% move speed increase. Like, it's not gigantic. Like, this is okay, but hey, here's 30 haste. 30 haste is good. 30 haste is good. How efficient is it? Cosmic Drive, not horrible. Right, the item by itself with no other forms of haste really at all is worth 16 move speed. That's 190 gold. We're pretty close to gold efficient, right? And that's one thing I think that Riot is trying to do a lot with this season, is they're actually really trying to rein in these items to be about 100% efficient when all is said and done, which I think is totally reasonable to do. I think we're going to be in this spot a lot, where it's like, oh yeah, and with the passive, it's worth it. I think that's a good thing, right? They kind of like looked at a lot of items and said, okay, let's actually make sure this item is like balanced at the end of the day. Seems reasonable, right? Haste, right? Recasting spells a lot of the time. That kind of lines up with health as a stat. Sounds good. Demonic Embrace. We have non-mythic Liandry's. Like, there's a mythic Liandry's that is got mana on it. This is non-mythic version. 300 gold. Blasting, Giant's Belt, Amp Tome, Health AP. So very, very, very similar to like old Liandry's in overall build. A little different, sure, but similar overall. And we get Azakana Gaze. Burn for 1.5 max health every second for 4 seconds. This is exactly the old Liandry's burn. Keep in mind the mythic Liandry's is 1% plus 15 flat. So with Liandry's and Demonic Embrace, we are doing 2% max health plus 15. Seems pretty good. Also, gain 10 armor and MR while a champ is affected, so a bit tankier, plus 2.5 for each additional champ. So 10 to 20 armor and MR on this health item. This is Screaming Singed. It's pretty well Screaming Mordekaiser. Darius, we could see it. If your Q hits all 5, you get 20 armor MR. Swain is a big pog. Galio's pretty big pog. Honestly, I could even see kind of Skarner, but Skarner has like no AP ratios. But this is like, I'm an AP champion and I must be in the front line. Hecarim doesn't, again, like, you really want the AP ratios, but here we are, right? This is what 10 armor and MR gives you. Obviously, it can be up to 20 armor and MR. We're not even counting the percent burn. This item is very, 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 very efficient. Just on a health, armor, MR perspective, we're like 95% gold efficient before the burn. Demonic Embrace is going to be bought a lot. Now, you can make the argument that, like, but Xerath doesn't need health, armor, and MR, and that's valid. There are champions who are not going to value health as highly as Singed, as Rise, as Cassiopeia. Absolutely. But there's stuff here. Riftmaker totally synergizes, right? Here's some percent magic pen. Here's my Omnivamp off this burn. Like, here's my armor, MR, and bonus health. Like, totally going to work. This is a great Amumu item. This, you know, if you want to go AP Amumu, you're probably doing the Hextech GLP replacement and this. And yeah. Or you're doing, you know, Chemtech, you know, Hyper Tank and Demonic Embrace. Zach might go Demonic Embrace. Like, this lines up very well for tanks who want to do some damage because of the up to 20 armor MR. Cyrilda's Grudge. Caps off assassin builds, slowing enemies into their graves. The rest of the items provide lethality with careless in mid-game. Grudge gives percent pen to give an option to threaten tank. So it is meant to be the armor pen capper to an assassin. Okay? Damaging effects slow enemies. This is Riley's is going to be the exact same, 30% for 1 second. Caulfield's Last Whisper, boom. Now, it doesn't have to be the Assassin Topper. It can be, of course. Armor Pen 30% is not bad. AD, haste, solid overall. This is a physical damage tank buster. Sure. Seems solid, seems reasonable. Now, one thing that's interesting is it can be somewhat hard to price Armor Pen appropriately because we have Last Whisper, Cyrilda's Grudge, and Lord Dominus Regards are the only 3 items of Armor Pen on them. I'm using whatever I had for Armor Pen from a few patches ago, which is basically 300-ish gold per 10%, which seems fine. 350, I think, per 10%. I think is a reasonable price. It puts the item at about 90% efficiency, which is what we expected. With a 30% slow, that seems reasonable. There is no cooldown. It is basically Riley's first there. Now it is spells, not attacks. Frozen Mallet is gone. This is AD Riley's. Darius gets to slow for 1 second with his Q. And I want to point out that, I mean, again, this is the exact same text as Riley's. So if your ability applied Riley's, it will apply Cyrilda's Grudge. It will do Betrayal. This will work out. Can it work on Ezreal as an Iceborne Gauntlet replacement? Yeah. Ezreal Q should count as a slow. The ult will slow. There's a percent armor pen, which is pretty solid. It can. I mean, 20 haste is a good Ezreal stat for sure. Garen's a great idea. Garen's E now slows. That's an absolutely wonderful idea. Garen may buy this third. Maybe second. Does Master E hit count as ability? It should not. No. Kog'Maw W, I believe, doesn't. If it applies Ludens, it applies an ability slow, right? So if it applies Liandry's or Ludens or Riley's, it applies Grudge. Alawi Q should work. It's expensive, sure. Darius passive, I believe, doesn't apply things like Riley's. So, yeah, that's what it comes down to. Kiana spells pretty much all work. I think her W auto wouldn't, but that's it. That's kind of where we are. Gold efficiency, yeah, seems reasonable. Next, we have Silvermere Dawn. So we have 2 QSS items now. We have a crit one and a non-crit one. This is the non-crit one, of course. It's the one for fighters. Silvermere Dawn, 3,000 gold, QSS, pickaxe, ruby crystal. And what's kind of nice is like this is a fairly convenient combine. This isn't that hard to build. Some solid AD, some solid health, some solid MR, decent item overall. Quicksilver active comes in, and by the way, Quicksilver no longer removes airborne. So you can no longer QSS flash out of Vi ult, out of Ornn ult, out of Malphite ult. You're taking it. Airborne, yeah, Cho'Gath Q, all the above. Airborne does not preclude summoner spells, so you can cast heal, you can cast barrier, you can cast You can't cast Flash, but Ghost for whatever reason. Suppression stops Barrier, but can be QSS'd. Airborne stops QSS, but can be flat, or can be healed and barriered through. I believe they took off Tenacity affecting Airborne. I believe that went away. That is not in this. It was considered for a while. That's gone. Knockup and Airborne are the exact same thing. Airborne is the actual name of it. Okay. How efficient is the item? Well, here we go. Quicksilver has a price. This is just literally looking at Quicksilver Sash and taking... Wait, no, hold on. Hold on. Do I actually have a Quicksilver? No, I don't. Okay. You are paying 612 gold for this. However, that's about what Quicksilver costs. That is roughly the math, actually. Maybe wait, is it equals QSS? No. Okay, I didn't build one. I went and drove a bunch more stats a couple days ago, but then didn't name the ranges, so we're not going to be there. But this is totally reasonable, right? You're paying 600 gold for QSS, which you were already going to pay for in the first place. You get pretty gold efficient health, armor, and a little bit more MR on the upgrade. Or sorry, health, attack damage, and then some MR on the upgrade. Also, you get tenacity and slow resist after popping, which is very, very, very good. This is solid. This is strong. This is the item you buy when you need a frontline, take a stun, and keep going. Yeah, but QSS is 1300, but then you also get MR on top, right? On top of the head, does anyone know? QSS has 30 MR on it, right? So if we go 1300 minus 30 times MR. Whoops, I mistyped that. Yeah, 760, right? So it's actually 760. This is more than gold efficient. Here you go. I knew I was close, right? So you pay 760 for the QSS. Yeah. For just the active and not kind of the magic resist. Which, yeah. This is a great item. This item is gold efficient to just upgrade from QSS. Which is, I think, the intent. But yeah, if you need QSS, just keep going. You get an even better active. This is a great item. We also get more anti-healing options. There was an 800 gold physical, magical, and tank healing reduction. And they all have upgrade paths. Awesome stuff. The upgrade paths all have 60% grievous wounds on top. It's pretty cool stuff. So Chem Punk Chainsword is the fighter version, assassin version. AD carries could do it too, but they don't probably want to. Executioners, Caulfields, Ruby Crystal, right? Here's health, here's haste, here's a bunch of AD. Physical damage is grievous wounds. That's what Executioner Calling says. If you deal physical damage, you do grievous wounds for 2 seconds for 40%. However, if they are below half, amp that up. Cut their healing from 60 to 40%. It is a further increase. I want to point out, by the way, that in a way, this roughly doubles the value of your grievous wounds. So think about this, right? They're going to heal for 100 health. Instead, with this, they heal for 60 health. So they went from 100 to 60. They are 60% as strong. They then go from healing from 60 to healing for 40. 40 over 60 is 66% as strong. You are doing almost the exact same multiplication. You are cutting it by about a third each step. Basic Executioners, and then upgrade to Chainsword, this. That's pretty sweet. They have to be below half, but if you're hitting Mundo when he's low, you get to ruin that thing. AD, health, haste, grievous wounds. How efficient is it? Pretty good. Hackshorn. Bam. Now I could have totally built out Executioners. I think, let's see, it's 800 minus 15 times AD. So you pay 275 for Executioner's Calling's passive, if I remember correctly. This is 292 for a potential upgrade to it, right? So, I mean, yeah. That seems pretty reasonable, right? This is another item where you look at the base component, you say, okay, but Executioners. For like a 23 gold surcharge, we get the rest of the way up there. Absolutely great. Now, assuming you want health and ability haste and whatnot, sure, but, right, you want to finish a legendary. You get your mythic passive on the line. The game is asking you to upgrade all the way in. The game is asking you to not sit on components if you can help it. They are more gold efficient by about 200 gold if you don't sit on components. Item seems good. Next up, anti-healing, Chem Tank Putrefier. 2,300 gold. And I want to point out, by the way, 2,700 for a fighter, right? Fairly cheap. 2,300. This is in support territory. Supports can buy this item when, and I love this. I want to be clear. I love this because it means that Nami can say, you know what? I got you. I could have gone for, Mikhail's. I could have gone for Ardent Sensor. I could have gone for these. I will get Putrefier for the team. This is achievable for me, right? It is new Oblivion Orb, which is 800 gold and has Grievous on it. It's basically extra calling for magic damage. Battleglass Mirror is a trash item, but it's a cheap combine. And we get AP, haste, mana regen, right? It's support binded. And dealing magic damage is 40% Grievous wounds. And there is still Morellamicon in the game, by the way, which is the same as this guy, where when they're low, you do more. This is if you immobilize them, 60% instead. Nami ult, team-wide, 60% healing reduction. Sona ult, bam, got it in there. Land the Nami bubble, PogChamp. Did you get a Janna Q, a Janna R? In there. Supports can opt into healing reduction. They don't have to buy freaking flat pen to do it, right? They're buying stats they actually want. Supports can opt into healing reduction. I think this is such a big deal. This is such a big deal. I like this a lot. I am glad more classes have access to good healing reduction. We're in there, right? How efficient is it? Putrefier. Well, again, it's actually less efficient, right? So, we look at this and, we're less efficient overall. You could argue that applying physical when you're below half versus rooting at any point in time, maybe rooting at any point in time is easier. Maybe. But I want to point out that, this isn't terribly gold efficient, right? This is 89% efficient unless you're getting 6% out there. It's not outstanding. Now, again, ability haste is kind of a cheap stat, right? We should probably price ability haste at 25 per point and not 20 per point. That would make these items look a lot different. And realistically, I probably should. But that's where we are. This is still buyable. And to be clear, these champions can still just buy Oblivion Orb and chill. They don't have to go the rest of the way. They don't have to. They can. But if they want to get the rest of it, because they have CC, they can go for it. Does slow count? It's immobilize only, right? So it's not just CC them. You should use the magic component as the base for that? Yeah, fair. Oblivion Orb is, I think, less efficient, but oh well. All right, a new item for enchanters. A new buff item for enchanters to buff spellcasters. Forbidden Idol, which is heal and shield power. Blasting One, which is AP. So we have AP, mana regen, heal and shield power. Now, I will be clear, they could have fit a Amp Tome into this build because they're not going above 60 AP. I kind of like getting as many components as possible and having as little as possible in the build-up, especially because supports have such less gold income. You might have a 500 gold recall and want to get something and can't. I personally would have liked to see Amp Tome, but it's a really minor thing. I just think it would be a buff. It would be objectively a buff. It would make the game more fun. Minor stuff, though. AP, healed and shield power, base mana regen. Healing and shielding an ally grants you both move speed and ability power. Wow, nice. Well, here we go. Bam, bam, bam. Gold efficient by itself. And we get 15% move speed, 20, we'll call it 25 actually, ability power, because that's probably what's actually happening. And wow, is this item good. This item is outstanding. Absolutely love it. This item is great. Now, to be clear, this is only up some of the time, right? It's healing or shielding ally, which for 3 seconds is absolutely shorter than every shield cooldown. I am curious, though, about one thing, which is, does this work, because it used to work, this kind of stuff used to work, with Strength of Stone, or whatever it's called. It used to be called Bond of Stone, the Keystone. But it was when you CC an enemy, put a mark over the head, and then you can heal them. Font of Life, I think, is what it's called now. Yeah, like, if this works with Font of Life, this is such PogChamp. Like, obviously, like, you're going to feel good with Karma ult, just like, bam, we're in there. But, I mean, man, does this not look exciting? I don't believe it's... Yeah, Nami gives Turbo Boost, right? You W them, they get 10% and like 40 flat, and they're just like zipping around the map. Looks pretty sweet. Okay. We go to new interesting things. Okay, so now we get Ward Stones. So first off, most important part, you must be level 13 to buy this. You cannot force your support to buy this item. This item is almost always trash. This item, and the items like it, exist so that a 6-item support can feel good about having control wards in inventory. Okay? They got their Sightstone, they put their wards down. At level 13, you can finally buy this thing, so late game. The entire point of the item is it stores control wards and might have stats. Okay? That's why it exists. I mean, right now, you're level 11. Sorry, you're level 13, costs 1,100 gold, and all it does is hold a 3rd control ward. This item is hot garbage by itself. Of course, wait, there's an asterisk here. Let's move on. It's really, really telling you, no, seriously, only buy this on supports. There is not a champion in the game who would reliably want storing Wardstone. 1,100 gold just to hold a control ward. You still have to buy them, by the way. It doesn't just like have control wards. You still have to buy them. They just stack. But if you have a Sightstone, this can happen. Okay? It upgrades. It becomes slightly less trash, but still trash. It becomes Watchful Wardstone. It has 25 ability haste. It has a stat. It has 25 ability haste, which is, 5 to 600 gold worth of stats. Pretty bad for 1,100 gold. But stores your control wards and increases your ward caps by 1 each. Now you can have 4 wards on the map. So now you are buying this every single game. Right? Supports have a Sightstone to buy. Now what's interesting is you can buy McHale's, you can buy a Staff of Flowing Water, you can buy whatever weird aggressive item you want to buy, or you can spend 1,100 on your Wardstone to go part way up and get more wards. So we've finally reintroduced, I say we, like I had anything to do with this, Riot has finally reintroduced the ability a little bit to play the warding support. Now again, level 13 is late. That is late. Most supports do not reach 13 before the game ends. Most supports do not get this. So this is not going to be impactful in most of the games that you play, in most of the games that you watch in Pro, any of that. But if we go late game and supports actively need to, they're running out of item slots, but they buy this and it's at least some stats. And it increases your ward cap. Feels exciting. But there's more. You can spend more money. You can spend another 1,200 to go even farther. From 25 haste, plus 15, and 10 move speed. So we spent 1,100 gold on 25 haste. We spend the same amount on 15 haste and 10 move speed. Still not outstanding, really. But if you're full build, you have nothing to spend money on, you can do this. So here's the Watchful and the Vigilant Wardstone. About half gold efficient. This is what the move speed kind of costs. Yeah, I mean, you are paying, 600, 500-ish gold for the wards and the ward cap, and you're actually paying more like 1,000 gold for this ward and ward cap. Like, these items, unless you hyper value move speed, and by the way, Aether Wisp is just better, so don't. These exist. You should not rush them. They are not worth rushing. And to be clear, right, like, you're paying 600 on this side, and you're paying 1,100 on this side. Unless you think move speed is undercosted by double, which, debatable. It's not worth upgrading. No, the ward counter starts from the beginning of the game. But 20 wards over the course of the game takes a while. And so unless you think Lee Sin wants to spend 1,000 gold on getting a 3rd control ward, not even a jungler who, like you have to actually have a Sightstone for this item to be worthwhile at all. Even if you could get it on Ivern or Lee Sin or whatever. Why? Don't do it. What prevents supports from spamming the fountain? I mean, you're going to have 20 wards down by level 13 anyway. It's just going to happen no matter what by having a Sightstone. You're going to have no problems with this. Do not Wrath on Lee Sin. It is trash on Lee Sin. Okay. Just like with our goals for new legendaries, we want to ensure the existing options all offered a clear, unique reason to buy them, and that the item shop as a whole gives champions the tools they need to bring their innate strengths to bear. So we have updates. These items are, you're going to recognize them, they're going to do similar things, but they're going to be a little bit different. And these are, kind of considered reworks in this regard. So here we go. Here are our reworked legendaries. Mortal Reminder is the healing reduction item for AD carries. Executioner plus Zeal plus 700 gold. So we have a little bit of AD, attack speed crit, move speed because of Zeal upgrade, and dealing physical damage is 40% grievous wounds. 3 consecutive basic attacks is 60%. That is very good. This is fairly reliably applied. This is pretty solid overall. How much are we paying for this? Well, not that much. This is 275 at least, right? So, yeah. We have gold efficient healing reduction for 80 carries, basically. This is great. This is totally a solid item, right? Other than the support version over there, way back, this is super, this is super in line. This is super usable. Yeah, I dig it. It's a good item. 3 consecutive basic attacks. Yeah, rip Jin, of course, but that's what it is. Here is why Master Yi and Kog'Maw are never ever buying the on crit reduce your cooldowns button. Rageblade. Rageblade is sick. 600 gold. Rage Knife, Cloak of Agility, Dagger. 40 attack speed, 20 crit. Now that part is trash. That part is horribly bad. But basic attacks do 45 on hit damage per 20 crit chance. And you always have the every third basic attack applies on hits twice. This is incredible. This is truly incredible. Now, you no longer critically strike is the important part. So you don't crit on top. I am curious how Rageblade interacts with Ashe passive as I'm seeing in chat. I assume it should delete the bonus damage from Ashe, or this item is giga broken. And let's keep in mind that the crit chance we're losing is 25% weaker than crit chance in 2019 and 2020. Because only doing 75% bonus damage. So now, the idea of going Kraken Slayer into Rageblade, because, right, you're buying Rageblade second, basically, right? So this item is 90 on hit damage. And then, on down the line, eventually becomes 450 on hit damage. 450 on hit damage, by the way, is absurd. So let's do some comparisons, right? If you have a 100% crit chance, this is, not 450, 225. It's 225. But let's think about this, right? How much attack damage do you have to have for this to be neutral? Okay, so let's again use 100% crit chance as our option, right? This is 225 damage on hit. Every hit. You get 225 bonus damage. 225 bonus damage per auto attack. Okay? For a crit to do 225 bonus damage per auto attack, you would need 300 total AD. So, other sources of crit damage notwithstanding, Rageblade is strictly better than Replacement before 300 attack damage. And that's before we look at Seething Strike, where you do another 33% more on hit damage, meaning that 225 just became 300 on hit damage, which means 400 total AD, which means, yeah, this item is great. This item is great, and we're in there, right? Now, it lost all the ramping attack speed stuff. It lost all the hybrid pen. It is its own item. It is a remake, and it is good. And so let's see what Rageblade gives us. Wow, really, really bad value. But again, this item basically always gives us 90 on hit damage because it's our second item. And, oh, yeah. 90 on hit damage is, it's a lot. For reference, by the way, like 90 attack damage is 3150. So again, yeah, if you really, really, really care about your spell damage, sure. But like Kog'Maw has no AD ratios, right? Kog'Maw can fully replace, okay, technically the R has one, I think, but like who cares? Kog'Maw can replace AD with on hit, and it's cheaper. That's great. This is so good, right? Like this is so valuable. Kog'Maw would love to, like, this is incredibly good. Now there is some further math, right? Like, so for example, you know, what would 0.4 times crit cost? Oh, by the way, it's also better. Like, it literally upgrades your value of crit, because this is what 40% crit chance costs you, 1,600 gold. This is what 40% crit chance gives you through Rageblade. Now, of course, you are paying 800 gold for the privilege, right? This item is by itself inefficient. And to be clear, we are also kind of double counting here, right? Because we're really not getting any crit chance. We're getting 0% crit chance. We're getting 40% attack speed. This item gives us 40% attack speed and 90 on hit damage, right? That's what the item actually gives us. And hey, by the way, it's gold efficient. Right, assuming we have a mythic, right? We're assuming in all cases we already have a mythic. And this is before we're looking at this guy. Hey, here, let me do 33% of this. Oh, interesting. It's even more gold efficient? Who could have seen this coming? This item could have 0 attack speed and would be gold efficient. Just this is gold efficient. Now, gold efficient is still, to be clear, an awkward thing to talk about in some cases, but it's real good. Whew! This item is real good. Someone talked about Yone or Yasuo being an option. Because I think that Yone and Yasuo have reduced crit damage. Yeah. I mean, anyone with reduced crit damage, like, even though Rageblade is really strange, right? And you should feel weird on a low attack speed champion like Senna or Jhin, champs with lower crit damage still crit, right? Now, you have to care about your total AD. That's still part of the math, but like, Rageblade is not literally the worst option ever on... It's actually a great option on Yone and Yasuo, because they're still doubling all their crit chance. Yeah. Maybe. Jin's probably too troll, but, you know, still. Possibilities. Phantom Dancer kind of gets the other half of old Rageblade. So it's Dagger, Zeal, Dagger. Same pinner, same cost. You know, same stuff here. Attack speed, crit chance, move speed, right? Same Phantom Dancer. But instead of the shield, we just get better Spectral Waltz. So we still get the basic attacks grant 7% movement speed and ghosting. But 5 attacks, which is roughly old Rageblade pacing. 40% more attack speed. And it's, by the way, basic attacking 5 times. Not the same champion, not the same target, not champions in general. It's just, did I attack 5 times? Okay, we're on. This item is now 80% attack speed and 14 move speed. Whoo! Well, you're buying this alongside Rageblade every game. Oh, yeah. So Phantom Dancer, of course, not terribly gold efficient by itself. But, of course, you're buying it for the passive, and, oh, that is 116%. Only some of the time. You will not always have Waltz on. I mean, you'll have the first half of Waltz basically all the time, but the other half, sometimes less. It looks good. Lord Dominic's regards. It is the Marksman, aka Crit, Armor Pen solution, Last Whisper, Cloak of Agility. So some attack damage, some crit, and 25 Armor Pen. 25 Armor Pen. That's what we had earlier with Serylda's Grudge. It's another 25% Armor Pen item. And hey, by the way, 50% bonus physical damage against champions with more max health than you. This is 15% if they have 2,000 more max health than you. So the fighters got kind of this item, but instead of crit, it had ability haste and health, and your ability slowed. This is, we don't expect your health to be very high. I want to point out, this has some anti-synergy with Immortal Shield Bow, because Immortal Shield Bow can give you up to 400 more health, and that's lowering the value of this passive a little bit. Actually, no, sorry, it's 50 per, so it's 200 more health. Not a ton, but it still exists. How efficient is it? Well, not bad. Assuming we have priced Armor Pen fairly, which we usually do. Yeah, 50% more damage is, I'll be honest, about what this is going to do. It's like 800-ish more gold of value. So, yeah, very, very good item. And what I really love, by the way, is they're making all of these marksman items, just all of them give crit, and they all give 20%. And so you can have a full 100% crit build that I think feels really satisfying, of Mythic plus 4 legendaries. 100% crit feels great. Infinity is probably in there somewhere. But you can get your Grievous Wounds, you can get your Anti-Tank, you can get your Durability. I love that. And it also means that you can use these items for Rageblade. Because, hey, by the way, Rageblade is physical damage, right? Rageblade hooks into all the same AD carry itemization because you're trying to stack 20 crit chance and 20 crit chance, 20 crit chance. And we're in there. Like, that feels pretty good. I'm a fan. I like this. This feels absolutely wonderful. So now we have Essence Reaver. Essence Reaver is a Sheen AD carry item. Attack damage, crit, ability haste, right? No attack speed, but we get Spellblade. Okay, what do we get out of this? Well, it's roughly Essence Reaver's old stat line. We're pretty close. It's a bit less AD, but whatever. But we get a Sheen on top. 100% base AD plus 40% bonus AD. So compare this to Triforce, right? Where Triforce just gave you 200 damage on top. It just gave you your base AD. So until you have basically 250 bonus attack damage, this is not as good as Triforce. It's like roughly the math. I mean, it's really, if your bonus AD is 2.5x your base AD, then it's as good as Triforce. But it gives crit. It gives no attack speed. Spellblades don't stack. So because the item exists, I'm going to guess Ezreal doesn't go Triforce. I'm going to guess Ezreal just goes Essence Reaver second. Might be wrong, but maybe. It also restores 3% of your max mana, which means every single Ezreal Q hits the target, 3% max mana comes back. Gangplank feels reasonable. Obviously, it's your Sheen upgrade, although Gangplank may still just go Triforce, I'm not sure. But Gangplank may go for a whole crit build. That's a possibility as well. It's very inexpensive, of course, 2,900 gold. It's not bad. And here we are at reasonably efficient. Of course, we know Spellblade costs 700. Of course, that can scale to be, at some point up twice as good. You get Mana Restore on top. This is a good item. Just overall, like, Ashe can volley then auto attack. Maybe you don't buy it, but, like, it is still free additive damage. Especially because it scales with bonus AD. Like, Xayah W auto, E auto, Q auto, if you pace it out well enough, like, there's going to be some value here. Ginsu's on Ezreal makes sense because you're, getting crit items to try to get on hit damage so that your Q is good. Yeah, I think Ginsu makes sense on Ezreal. So, yeah. Makes sense. It's a good item. Very good item. Looks great. Okay, let's move on. Infinity Edge has been rebuilt a little bit. It is still very expensive. It is still BF Pickaxe Cloak of Agility. It is 70 AD. It is lower crit chance. And you get some of your crit damage back. Now, theoretically, this item is up to 40% crit damage. Old IE was 25% crit damage. This is sort of more valuable as an item. Now, again, still want to point out that this is only adding 24% crit damage as your third item. So this item kind of comes in late. And what's weird about this is, okay, so we have our first mythic. We buy our whatever other item is going to be. Let's call it Phantom Dancer. Who cares? Rapid Fire Cannon. Who cares? Hurricane. Whatever. And then IE can come in third. But now we're getting close to the end of the game. Do I need Armor Pen instead to deal with the Nautilus? Do I need Healing Reduction instead to deal with the Yuumi? What am I putting out? Like, this either has to, like, something has to come in too early, because I think we're so unlikely to get to 5-item builds overall. Our items are still expensive here on marksman sides. So we're not quite there. It's 215% at max crit, unless I'm hard trolling. No, yeah, it's 215. So we don't even quite reach old Infinity Edge crit damage from last patch. The marginal value, to be clear, the marginal value of the item is higher, even at 3 stacks. Plus 24 from a 75% is better than plus 25 from 100%. So this is, assuming like everything else lines up, it's better than old IE from 3rd item onwards. But marksmen overall are not necessarily better off. Unless the whole stat rework of getting to get crit more often, that might pull its weight. But only in those cases. So Infinity Edge is roughly gold efficient for AD and crit. But of course, our crit damage is somewhere between 183 and realistically, honestly, it's more like 191. Right? Because you're never buying this item first. There's zero chance you're buying this item first. And yeah, okay, sure. It's some level of damage amp, which is pretty solid. So we're just going to write a 16 to... Oh, great, yeah. There we go. I don't know why I did this. We don't care. Manamune. This item, I think, is giga broken in the new patch. So a couple things are happening. One, Tier is a component item now. You can literally start the game with Tier. It has 5 on hit damage to minions. Tier, Warhammer, Sapphire Crystal, plus gold. Sapphire Crystal, interestingly, builds into exactly 3 items. Manamune, Archangel Staff, and Glacial Buckler. Feels like Sapphire Crystal could be deleted from the game soon. You know, like... Oh, sorry. And it builds into Lost Chapter. My apologies. It builds into Manamune, Archangel Staff, the Mage Mana Mythics, and Buckler. Starting with here's a hard int? Maybe. Either way. 30 AD, 400 mana, 15 haste. So we get haste out of Manamune now. You get bonus AD on 2% max mana. And the way Tier stacks is now different. Strike a target with an attack or an ability to consume a charge. To get 3 bonus mana. Bonus mana doubled if that was a champion. 450 bonus mana is the requirement. Get a new charge every 8 seconds. So every 8 seconds, 3 mana, 150 times. Or 75 times if against champions. Well, every 8 seconds, 150 times, that takes a while. That is, I believe, 20 minutes. 8 seconds times 150 times. That divided by 60 seconds. Yeah, 20 minutes. It stacks pretty slow. It takes 20 minutes to stack if you're using it all the time, depending on whether or not you're hitting champions. Right? Theoretically, it's 10 minutes if you're hitting champions. That seems pretty impossible. But Manamune is solid, right? Look at this. This item gives 400 plus 450 mana, 35 AD, 15 ability haste. And so if we assume 1,000 to max mana at level 18, which is, I think, fairly normal, this gives us 1,300 gold worth of AD, right? So we're basically getting 35 AD and 35 more AD. This item is very, very efficient. Now, of course, if you only care about the ability haste part of it, then we're at like 2,500 plus 300 is like 2,800. Like, it's not that sick, but... you know, if you care about the 850 mana, then yeah, we're pretty close. A new stack every 8 seconds, but you get up to 4 stacks. So you get 32 seconds out of combat to stack them all up. You're pretty reliably at 4 max stacks when you go into a fight. Yeah, you can't spam abilities when running back to lane, basically. Yeah. Strike a target with an attacker ability. Muramana. Still 35 AD. 850 mana, as we expected. Ability haste 15. Now, the max mana is down by a little bit, right? Old Tier, I believe, was a full 1,000. This is 850. It was a bit less total mana. It's 2% max mana, but this is a very, very big deal. You do not burn your mana pool, nor does it ask for current mana when dealing damage on hit. This is a big deal. Yeah. Not only you're not gonna but the damage stays higher. Also, works with abilities. Yes, indeed. So let's look at this. All right. So we're back to this table again, right? Attack damage, mana, ability haste, cost. Here's the AD. And by the way, yes, indeed. If I have 1850 max mana and I do 4% on hit, I'm doing 1850 gold worth of that, right? 1850 times 0.04. I'm doing almost 75 on hit damage, and you best believe I'm going to try to find other ways to get mana. Now, that's going to be really tough, because unless I can't buy Archangels. I'm pretty sure you're still stuck with not getting more than one So, AD carries literally can't get more mana unless they buy a Glacial Buckler. There is no other way to get mana, because mana has been deleted off most items in the game. And this is probably where this item gets a bit more fair, because you're not going to get Iceborne Gauntlet Muramana Ezreal, right? Trinity Force, no mana on that one either. Essence Reaver gives you mana restore? Does Reaver have flat mana on it, though? No, it gives mana restore, right? AD crit haste. Presence of Mind, by the way, also going away. Well, it's changing. Presence of Mind doesn't have max mana on it anymore. Mana Flow Band does, so there's 250 there. And you probably will, go for this, but this is a standalone item with 75 on hit damage and 70 attack damage. And yeah, you'll probably go Mana Flow Band, so it goes a little bit higher. Cookies for 160? Okay, sure. There's a couple other little small points, right? You just buy Sapphire Crystals for 6 on hit damage. Feels bad. A bit more than that, right? It's 250 times 0.04, 10 on hit damage for Sapphire Crystal. Actually, pretty good. Legitimately, there's a small chance it's not gonna happen, but maybe, Very, very good. But yes, mana stacking is going away. We get Archangel Staff. This one's a lot more similar. Okay, 3,000 gold. Tear the Goddess NLR Sapphire. Right, it's no longer the old Lost Chapter build into. So the total mana is back to 400 plus 450 for mana stacking. So it's not a 1450 item, it's an 850 item. So the amount of mana you get out of Archangels is vastly lower. Presence of Mind is gone. Sheen, no mana on it. Roa, gone. Mana stacking is harder. And that's, I think a positive thing. 60 AP, 400 mana. 3% of max mana gained as bonus ability power. And a mana charge again, strike with an ability to gain 3 mana, bonus doubled against champions. I want to point out that Archangels stacks slower than Manamune, because Manamune works on autos, this does not. I think they should probably let this work on autos, just to keep parity. It's not a huge deal, but it kind of matters to me. Manamune, Muramana, Archangel Staff, turns into Seraph's Embrace, right? Still 60 AP, still 850 mana. Awe has been increased to 5%. The shield is gone. I think it's a good thing. Screw those actives. Increase max mana by 5% plus 2.5% per 100 AP. Ooh. Welcome back, Kassadin. Welcome back, Kassadin. Welcome to mana stacking. We're in there. So, Archangel Staff, very inefficient by itself. Holy moly. Mana charge, of course, for 450. Gets you a bit closer. But oof, this item's expensive and gives me no stats. Feels bad. Feels bad, right? Double taking this. Oh, it's 3,000. Okay, I had the prices wrong. 3,000. Helps a little bit, right? So again, we're taking 1850 AP as our expected max. Now, Kassadin has 1,700 max mana. But if we take the 1850 ability power, or 1850 mana, and we multiply by 0.03, right? 1850 times 0.03, we get another 50 AP on top. Now it's 110, right? And now you look at the full item and you're yeah, actually, 60% from there, 60% from there. It's the same AP, it's the same mana. It's actually very interesting that both parts are equal, right? The amount of max mana it gives you from tier stacks is equal to the base on the item, and the amount of max AP or AD you get from the mana pool is about as equal to what's on the item itself as well. I like that a lot. I think it's actually really nice. That it's equal parts passive and unique passive and base stat. I like that. That's 50 more ability power. Pretty good. And which makes it actually pretty solid. It's about 120 AP on the item. Seems solid. We go to Seraphs and we get 5% max mana. But wait. we expect to have a legendary and a mythic done. We expect 80 AP from our first item, and to be fair, 600 mana from that one as well. In fact, our max mana is always plus 650. In fact, we should update this right now because it's 1850 plus 600. If you're going Archangels, you are always going for a Mana Mage Mythic, right? There's no way you're not. There's no way you're not, right? So it's actually even more ability power, right? It's 2450 times 0.03. 73 ability power off this item. And then Seraph's is even better, right? So we have 2450 is our real base mana. And here's the thing, okay? So we have a mythic and we have this legendary, okay? So we're at about 200 AP, which means by the time we buy Seraphs, this is 200 AP, meaning 5% plus 5%, meaning 10% max mana, which means we have 2450 max mana plus 10% more, means we have actually 2700 max mana. 2700 max mana times 5% sounds really good, right? We're at 2695. Yeah, that sounds great. We have 135 AP from and 60 from this. So Seraphs, in the real world, where you're doing an actual Archangels build, is a 200 ability power item. Now, you have no other sources of mana. To be clear, that's it. You're done. Unless you buy, you can't go, unless you go Glacial Shroud, literally. Unless you buy a Glacial Shroud, you're done. This is it. You have 2 mana items. The starter and Archangels, and that's it. And actually, I like that. I actually do like that. I think that actually works out reasonably well. Yeah, Frozen Heart, right? You upgrade Glacial Shroud and a Frozen Heart. Like, that's it, though. Like, we're done. And I want to say, truly, I am a fan. Because your mana will keep increasing as you get more ability power. Right? 200 AP? That's just for this item. In fact, we should be going higher. This is 15%. Right? Because this item literally gives us 200 AP and 100 from our first item. So we're actually multiplying by 15%. Oh, surprise. Sorry, we got to keep going. 1.15. Oh, it's 140 AP. Right? Like, we're hitting dimension returns quickly. Like we're being recursive here. But here you go. Here's 50 more ability power. Cool. It's always 5% mana. 5% of your mana is ability power. So every 200 AP or 200 mana is 10 AP. So a 400 mana item is 20 AP. It's not bad. It's whatever. It recurs. It's a little bit recursive, but not horribly so. Seems great, right? Like this is the biggest AP stat stick in the game that's not death cap. We're in there. Lichbane gets reworked. It is now 80 ability power, 10 move speed, and no mana. It's slightly cheaper, only 3,000 gold. Sheen, Ether Wisp, Blasting Wand. So very, very similar build path. But the mana and the ability haste are gone. It is just AP, move speed, and go. And I guess Ether Wisp is new. No. That was in the build already. So 150 base AD plus 6% ability power. I forget how different that is to current live Lichbane. I feel like this is stronger, but I'm not certain. No haste, no mana. Well, let's see. Okay, well. And it's actually way more than 1.5 times Spellblade, by the way, right? So, like, if you expect that Spellblade by default does 100 damage, 60% ability power is, it's like at 200 AP, it does another 120 on top, right? This is like kind of 3x Spellblade or like 2.5x Spellblade. Like, this is a lot of damage. It was 50%, yeah. So So this is a 50% stronger Lichbane, or even more so, right? It was 100% base AD plus like 50% ability power. Now it's 150 base AD and 6% ability power. Like this is between 20 and 50% stronger as Spellblade. That is a lot. That is a lot. This is a very, very, very strong effect. An extra 0.6 AP ratio in your kit is a lot of damage. And it's not horribly inefficient leading up to this. Like, this isn't complete trash. Like, yeah, it's bad, but like, even the baseline Spellblade is dank. This is good. This is good. Blade of the Ruin King. Small reshape, but not by much at all. I believe it's slightly cheaper. Vamp Recurve Pickaxe, because Cutlass is gone. I am, again, continually very happy with the number of things Riot actually removed from the game. Cutlass is gone, Gunblade's gone, like things like that. I'm actually a big fan of that. Attack damage, ability power, attack damage, attack speed, lifesteal, fairly similar stat line overall. Again, all on hit damage counts lifesteal innately. 10% current health or 6% for ranged current health damage. Basically attacking someone 3 times deals bonus on hit damage and steals move speed for 2 seconds. I don't know what the cooldown on this is. I think it's pretty long. I think it's like 30 or 40 seconds or something. But this is nice. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, this is a longer cooldown. I didn't think about this. This is actually a big deal. The Lichbane cooldown is longer. It's 2.5 seconds. I missed that. So yeah, 20-second cooldown on this. But this is up basically all of your trades. If you get Vayne Silverbolts off, it means you got the Ruin King slow off, and you can start the trade going. This is functionally worth 13 to 40 on hit damage, kind of. Vayne will probably still go Kraken Slayer first item and Ruin King second, just because that's how it's going to go, which means Vayne is, in fact, going to be missing some crit in that build. There's a chance that Vayne doesn't Ruin King because of the range bent. Like, literally because Rageblade and Phantom Dance for Kraken Slayer exist, we might not see Ruin King on 80 carries. Because it's 40% less on hit damage, and you already have a really sick build path already, that just building Phantom Dancer is worth 45 on hit damage. This is 45 on hit damage. Like, let's see, right? So, 45. Oh, that's a mistype. Nope, let's keep trying. 45 divided by 0.06. So, to be fair, if they have 750 current health, Blade of the Ruin King's passive is equal to Rageblade's conversion. Current health, though, right? So as they get lower, you get less out of Ruin King. And you are paying 500 for this. So this assumes 60 on hit damage. That's a made-up number. It is 600 max health if you're melee. 600 current health if you're melee. It is 1,000 current health if you're ranged. That is about 1,500 damage. Now, 25% movement speed is worth 1,000 gold for the duration. It's not forever. We could also use, let's go with 75 times energize. So if we had like a 75 energize damage, we could like delete some of this. And it, the reliable chunk every once in a while is worth 300 gold of stats. Like if we're looking at Kirchhei's Shard as our example, which is like about right. Like Ruin King is good, to be clear. Right? This is actually a pretty solid item overall. But there's a lot of better replacements out there. Is it probably still going to get bought? Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably still going to get purchased because it is still a very good source of, it is your easy go-to lifesteal item. It's still attack speed, which is a good stat. It is still a bunch of on-hit damage. It's good. Black Cleaver comes in as, of course, a non-mythic, but obviously you're going to see this get bought by fighters. Caulfield's Warhammer, Kindle Gem, Longsword. So we have removed the phage, right? We don't have the move speed on hit. Black Cleaver is just ability haste, health, damage. It is a damage item. Black Cleaver is there to get damage output out. And there's a lot of it. Okay? Dealing physical damage is still Armor Shred. 24%. Very strong. Good stuff right there. Ability haste, it's spellcasting focused. Makes sense. Sure, of course. Damaging attacks and abilities. Against Fully Shredded, deal 5% missing health. And there's a very small internal cooldown, so you don't like super chunk someone, I guess, or whatever. You can't quite hard stack it, but this is still going to be happening fairly frequently. It's of course hard to math out how good Butcher is. Carve is somewhat reasonable, but hey, this is a, reasonably-ish efficient. Now, yes, again, we are still in the 80-ish% territory, where a lot of items are living, where they are in 80-ish% efficiency, but don't worry, you're getting a thing. You're getting a benefit. You're getting 4 to 24% armor pen. Well, yep. And then 5% missing health per stack. Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. And I want to point out, right, it is dealing physical damage. So, like, Darius passive still stacks this. Yeah. You lost the move speed, you gained this. It is, I think, a bit less efficient. This used to have 400 health on it, and it used to cost only 3,000 gold. So it did lose some baseline efficiency, which, I mean, yeah, that's where it was before. But yeah, this can absolutely be a good finisher. I'm not sure. Maybe. Ravenous Hydra now exists. It's got little snakes in it. Looks pretty cool. Active rehomed in Gore Drinker. That's right. So we had all the Iron Spike Whip items, which built into mythics, right? We had Iron Spike Whip, which was the active crescent, and it would do the chunk of damage. That's in Gore Drinker, and it was in the other one. Tiamat still exists as pure AD and the passive AoE damage. A little bit cheaper, still a solid item. And this is where it goes into Ravenous and Titanic Hydra, who have lost their own actives. Again, I'm happy they're really trying to put actives on like super situational stuff, like Mikhail's QSS, and mythics, and then gotten rid of them in most other places. I am a fan of that. I am a fan of re-shrinking active budgets. Just saying, I am. Whoops, we moved a bit far. Okay, so Tiamat, Vamp Scepter, Warhammer. So it's AD, it's Haste, it's Omnivamp. Now I will say, consider that Ravenous Hydra is done by auto-attacking. I would have liked attack speed a bit more than cooldown reduction. Like I know, or ability haste. Like I know fighters want to recast abilities, but literally the Hydra items are auto-attack focused, and I feel like they maybe should have had attack speed on them. It's kind of a leaning, but it's Omnivamp. Ravenous Hydra is the Omnivamp option. Now, Gore Drinker, I think, already had that to a certain degree as well. We get even more here with Ravenous Hydra. We're going to heal all the freaking time, and we get the Cleave passive. Basic attack abilities do 6% of your attack damage against other enemies near the target. Damage scales down with distance. Now, I want to point out, old Ravenous Hydra used to say, as a passive, hey, by the way, your Cleave damage, your Crescent damage scales with lifesteal. Now, this is Omnivamp. It doesn't have to say that anymore. It just works. So, we are just auto-attack wave clearing with some lifesteal. How good is it? Well, pretty good. Before Cleave, it's efficient. That's pretty pog. And I want to point out, there's no melee-only text here anymore. So if you want to go buy Ravenous Hydra on Ezreal, go for it. See what it does. Let's see how it does. Because you can do that now. Titanic Hydra. Also, 3,300 gold. Tiamat Vamp Warhammer. Tiamat Ruby Giant's Belt. So, AD and health. There we are, okay? We are just a tanky boy. This one is ability haste and lifesteal. This one is like, no. We are just going to frontline this. We are big. What are we going to have happen? Well, gain bonus attack damage equal to 1% of max health. So we got old Atma's Impaler back. Shout out to that item. And again, we, instead of having the Ravenous Hydra 6%, which is the basic cleave, we have basic attacks deal 4 plus 1.5 max health to the target, or 40 plus 3% max health to enemies behind the target. And hey, by the way, this damage is cut down for ranged because it's so much easier for ranged champions to apply the free bonus on hit damage. So it is a small Urgot nerf, but Urgot can still build Titanic, which honestly he may in fact do. Okay, how good is this item? Well, Titanic by itself is not great, but wait, okay? But wait. Because let's be clear, this item gives me 550 health, and I'm probably at about 2,000 health when I buy the item. So I really have 2,550 health. Whoops, that's wrong. I'm really getting another 25 AD out of the item, and hey, by the way, hey, look, this part's gold efficient. Once again, much like Ravenous Hydra. This part's efficient. This part's efficient. Do I have actually Vamp? Do I have Omni? No. I do. Okay, cool. We can reword this actually then. So technically, it's actually more efficient there because Omni Vamp is more expensive stat because it works on more things. But That's based off Leeching Leer. Yeah, so Ravenous Hydra, obviously very good. And here's some, nice little cleave for funsies so we can knock out the wave. Lets you stay in lane forever. Attack damage is going to look pretty solid, right? We are, again, always getting 25 to 80 out of this, basically. So yeah, it's 55 attack damage. It's a good item overall. It is efficient. And then we get the cleave on hit. Now, this is doing the 4 plus 0.15 on hit, okay? 1.5%. And this is basically, we can just do this divided by on hit. And we're getting about 42 damage on hit, by the way, right? Just by itself, before you get any other health items, you're getting about 42 on hit damage, which is very, very good. It's also very convenient because it makes the math really easy, right? So by itself, 4 plus 1.5% is 42 on hit damage. Well, the 1.5% gets doubled to 3%. And the 4 becomes 40, which means we're kind of adding 40 and adding 40, which means our splash damage is about 120. Our splash damage is about 120 damage, which is very good. Now, to be clear, 60% of your total attack damage at 200 AD is also 120. So, this isn't absurdly out of line. It just is what's going on. Lines up pretty well. And again, that is for the splash damage. The primary target is taking 40 on hit damage, which is reasonable. And yeah, you could really consider this as an option because, hey, 40 on hit damage is not bad. You might consider it. It's a possibility. Let's go what's next. We got Wit's End. All right, with a few more healing options in the mythic space, we had to be judicious with other sorts of healing. We replaced the movement speed to offer light fighters another powerful form of utility. Now more AD to broaden appeal among fighters. Okay, so Hearthbound Axe is again Old Phage. It's attack damage, attack speed, move speed on hit. We get Negatron Cloak Dagger because that's still what the Wit's End sort of space is. It's the attack speed MR item. 30 AD, 40 attack speed, 50 MR. We apply 15 to 80 damage on hit, and we get move speed, right? So we lost the healing. We got some kiting instead. Now, I want to point out something real quick, by the way. We keep talking about Hearthbound Axe. Every single Hearthbound Axe upgrade has a different name of the passive, which leads me to believe every single one of them stacks. So you can get 70-ish move speed on hit if you keep stacking this item and its upgrades. There's only a few sources. I think 2 are mythics in the first place, but it's a couple places to go. There is no melee range split. It is just an on-hit damage item that looks pretty solid. Again, I really wish it was a level 10 start, but whatever. How good is Wit's End? Well, AD, AS, and MR are all pretty efficient, actually. And if we we're trying 20 move speed and 15 on hit, but let's try, a more realistic 30 on hit. And this item is super great. This item is very, very efficient. Even if we delete the move speed off it entirely, just as a damage item, it's still very, very good. Now, Old Wit's End was obviously super sick. It did a whole lot for us. It was a very, very good item with all the healing and whatnot, but this is still a very, very good item. It is still up to 80 on hit damage, which is better than Ginsu's can convert from. So if you're going to be a Rageblade user, you're probably going to buy Wit's End because the conversion is still better, right? It's still 30 AD, still 40 attack speed, and instead of getting 20 crit, like you're going to get on whatever the hell other item you're going to buy, you're getting 80 on hit damage. That seems worth it. So this is a super good item. It's going to fit on a lot of champions. Obviously, the large amount of gold, it's a third. Well, I'll call it a quarter of the item, right? One quarter. They're all about 1,000 gold worth of X. 1/4 of the item is an MR. It's still reasonably efficient outside of that. Maw of Malmortius. We get another MR option. This is Lifeline. This does not stack with AD carry Shield Bow. I believe Sterix is still Lifeline as well. But if as an AD carry you don't go Shield Bow, you can still go Maw. And it's actually a consideration because you might actually decide that in your build, you're going to go, Gale Force because you'd rather have Maw because you want the MR. But I'm going to guess that Shield Bow Wit's End is the better option. But who knows? 3,000 gold-ish. Hexdrinker Warhammer. Right, exact same kind of build space. Ability haste is 15 instead of 10 CDR in the old Maw, because in some cases they actually do update this stuff appropriately. But 50 AD, 50 MR. Upon taking magic damage, it's a 200 flat shield, but plus 20% max health, which realistically is going to be to the tune of around 40 more on top. Now, I will say, this is weaker. Old Ma was like 350 or something. It takes a lot. Am I trolling? I am trolling. 1,000 max health is 200 more than the shield. I'm wrong. 1,000 max HP is another plus 100. If I'm at 1,500 max health, this is a 500 point shield. Yeah, okay, sorry. Whoop. It's 3.5 hours in, okay? Can't get everything right. This is outright basically a 500 point shield. That's very, very good. This is a very, very, very good item. Yes, you lose a lifesteal. One other thing that Riot did a fair bit with items in this update is they tried really hard to give items only one new thing per upgrade. So, and in this case, I mean, they got 0 new things with Ma, but they tried to say, okay, you know, let's make Iron Spike Whip, let's make all the other items so that we can just sort of piece by piece move forward and not get 3 things off one upgrade, which I think is a positive. So this is still good, right? So let's look at it. Let's look at the efficiency, right? Very close on AD, MR, haste. And again, maybe haste should be, 450 instead. And so then it is efficient, but well, not quite there, but regardless, right? Pretty efficient. And then lifeline, which is going to be, at least 400. At just like 1,000 max health, which is trivial. It's a 400 point shield. Yeah, I mean, you're getting 1,000 gold worth of health if you're going to use the shield. That's super strong. This item is great. It is really competing for your attention. Death's Dance gets a rework. So Ma is super dank against magic damage. It's arguably a stronger item overall. Death's Dance is finally made a bit sharper, a bit narrower, because wow, is Death's Dance just overtuned as hell. Fairly expensive. Chain Vest, Caulfield's Pickaxe. No Vamp, no MR. No Vamp, no MR. AD, Armor, Haste. 35 melee, 15 range, delayed. That's slightly increased, right? It was 30-10, now it's 35-15. But it's physical damage. It's physical damage only. Hang on. We're not done. This is actually hype. This part is hype, though. If you get a takedown, cleanse Ignore Pain. If you get a takedown, cleanse the bleed. If you are killing, it is a nearly 35% damage reduction. It's not exactly that, obviously, because you're going to take some magic damage, you're going to take some bleed, but like, oh boy. Wait, it's more. You get move speed for 2 seconds, and you heal 10% max health. Yo. How exciting is this item? Like, legitimately. This item is exciting. That's all I can say. Is like, it's an exciting item because it does really cool things. It's big for Darius. It's a little greedy, and it's takedowns, right? So it's kill or assist. It is armor, durability, and I want to put out, right, like, it's not even heavily offensive skewed. Like, I mean, it's a little bit, right? But like, it's armor, haste, and 50-80 is a fair bit, don't get me wrong. But the damage the damage delay, the damage cleanse, the heal, those are all agnostic of what you're doing. You don't have to get the kill. The only true offensive stat here is 50-80. And it is a lot, don't get me wrong. Like, that's still like 1,500, 2,000 gold worth of attack damage. More like 1,750. It's actually exactly 1,750. But for the entire rest of the item, it's actually okay. Like, as long as you're reasonably okay, dealing attack damage. Like, if you need a frontline as someone who, deals AD, like, if you're going like Tank Garen, you can just have Death Dance and it's good enough. Item efficiency, let's go. Reasonably efficient. And then, yeah, Ignore Pain, Defy, Heal. I want to point out, like 0.1 times, I don't know, let's call it 2,300 health times HP. Right? Every takedown is like 600 health worth of 600 gold worth of health. And that's at 2,300 max health. It gets better from there. Plus whatever else you're defying. It seems cool, right? Seems like a good item. And not just like stupid broken OP. I'm a fan. We get Steric's Gauge. Steric's Gauge is your optimal purchase for constant team fighting. If you're dueling or in small skirmishes, though, Death's Dance should outshine it. Or Ma against magic, sure. Pickaxe, Phage, Ruby Crystal. Oh, they got rid of Jararm's Fist. It's fine. Pickaxe, Phage, Ruby Crystal. Phage is a kind of long fight sort of item. 400 health, 50 AD. That seems pretty similar to what this is doing. In fact, it's also pretty similar to here. I mean, it's actually pretty clever, right? Ma, Death's Dance, and Steric's all have 50 AD on them. And then, like, 40 armor, or 50 MR, or 400 health. Like, they did a pretty good job of, like, theming these tightly together. Again, the fewer differences you can have, the more you can specifically compare these items. I'm a fan of that. Good stuff. All right, so what happens to the item? Dealing damage or taking damage from a champion grants a stack. These stacks restore 2% max health over 6 seconds, and you can stack it 5 times. Which means you can restore 10% max health over 6 seconds. Now, that is not a ton. It is something. It is there. It exists, but it's not that big. But upon taking damage, because you're getting like up to what, like almost 1.5x, 1.5% max health per second. I mean, it's like 20 health per second or so, which is not trash, but like it's not outstanding. But it might help with like some lane scraps and whatnot. But it's champion only. Oh, no, sorry. Dealing damage. So it actually should work on minions, actually, right? Should work on minions. Or taking damage from a champion. Okay, let's keep going. Upon taking damage that would reduce your health below 50%, gain a shield of 200 plus 8% max health per stack of rage. And I believe with the comma, it means the 8% max health is the per stack of rage, not 200 as well per stack of rage. Yeah, it's 1 max stack per enemy champion. So if Ashe hits you and you attack Darius, you have 2 stacks. If Ashe hits you, Darius hits you, and you attack Darius, it's still 2 stacks. That's my understanding. But in a full team fight where everyone's hitting you, 40% max health shield. Max health portion is smaller for ranged. I want to point out, by the way, that Ma is always 200 plus 20% max health, right? Always 200 plus 20. This is 200 plus 8 to eventually maybe 40, right? So 3 champions at the breakpoint. Now, of course, it also works on physical damage. It's a big deal. But, hey, there you go. But yeah, if you're going to team fight, it's better. And I love this, right? Like, look how good a job Riot did at contrasting this to this. It's like, hey, 200 plus 20%, done. In Magic only. 200 plus 8 to 40% if you're going to team fight in all damage types. Where do you want to go? They both give 50 AD. They both give about 1,000 gold worth of defensive stats. One's MR, one's health, whatever. And it's like, oh, look at these really clean, convenient, easy to understand comparison points. Big pog. Now we go into tank items. Randuin's Omen. Oh, and quickly on gold efficiency, I guess. Yeah, I mean, pretty solid. The health per second's not too bad. This is 2% of 2400 max HP, is 128 gold worth of health. It's not a ton, but it's there. Randuin's Omen. We've now got tank items. Tank items. Okay? Here we got 2,700 gold. Makes them fairly cheap. I want to point out that Riot is making a lot of these tank items fairly inexpensive so that tank supports can access them. Also, tank top laners get less gold than their non-tank counterparts or champs in other roles. Because they don't get kills, they don't get to farm as easily, they have to TP out of lane and stuff. It's, I think, correct to do so. Warden's Cloth Armor, Kindle Gem. So there's CDR, or Ability Haste, now in Randuin's Omen. But the stat profile is still 250 plus 80. That's pretty similar to old Randuin's. This is actually something I'm going to bring up. I brought it up in last time I covered these items. I suggested that Randuin's and Thornmail switch spots in stat profiles because Randuin's is clearly the anti-AD item and Thornmail is a bit more agnostic. I wish it would have gone even farther personally, and that Thornmail wasn't still so armor skewed. But that's from me. This is 80 plus 250 because of me. Ability haste, health, armor. You have an active. Briefly slow nearby enemies and reduce their attack damage by 10%, plus their crit damage by 20%. So it's briefly slow enemies. So the slow is like half a second or something, but then this stuff is 4 seconds long. So it's a very meaningful, fairly long form, like damage output reduction, brief slow, but then also reduce incoming damage basic attacks by 0.5% of your max health, which is something as well. So keep in mind, let's say you have let's call it 2,000 max health. This is 10 damage per auto reduced. It's not a ton, but it's going to add up, right? You will survive more than 15 auto attacks. So it's a free Ruby Crystal down the line. Seems reasonable. Right, reduce their attack damage, reduce their crit damage. Solid stuff. How efficient is Randuin's Omen? Not bad. You can actually price out Rock Solid because of Warden's Mail. Humility, of course, is something here as well. But overall, I mean, pretty reasonable item. You are paying for the active, though. You are absolutely paying for the active. It's not an absurdly good item, but this active is definitely quite strong. Frozen Heart. Randuin's is the anti-crit space. Frozen Heart is going to do it against attack speed, which, by the way, I'll be honest, attack speed is maybe just like the better version of this anyway, especially because it's on all the time. But we have Mana Armor Ability Haste. 20 Ability Haste is technically a little bit weaker than 20 CDR, but it's pretty close. Warden's Mail Glacial Shrouds, same build paths, very, very similar cost. 50% reduced attack speed in the aura, and reduced damage of basic attacks by up to 0.5%, just like before. So, and I want to point out, it's called Rock Solid, so you are not going to buy Randuin's and Frozen Heart together. I believe is the only items with Rock Solid on it. So it's only ever this one. You're not going to feel bad about going Thornmail plus Randuin's. You get to get Thornmail and feel good about it, and then still buy one of these to really skew against this. But it has 400 mana on it. Here we go. Here's the item. Assuming you actually care about mana, it's efficient. 50% less auto attack damage is a very, very big deal. This is probably the best aura in the game. This is good, to be clear. Only problem is you're getting 80 armor and no other defensive stats on a fairly expensive item, which makes you pretty burstable from mages or spell casting AD, because you kind of still need some help there. But still, the item seems quite good, where it was good before. Also, honestly, I don't know why this has mana. Like, Glacial Shroud just be a different build. Like, realistically, it just feels weird. It feels tacked on to me. They've removed mana from so many other places. I don't feel like they need this, but whatever. It's kind of funny because we get farther and farther to a spot where mana just like isn't a stat you get to buy anymore, much like energy, which I'm also, by the way, a fan of. So maybe one day. And then we can just have the same mana on every champion. What I always wanted. Let's move on. Gargoyle Stoneplate gets a rework. Active is now Decaying Shield instead of max health. Passive grants resistances on taking damage. Okay, so expensive, very expensive. Aegis Cloth Null Magic. So it's no longer Chain Vest Negatron combined. It's Aegis Cloth combined. Notice that Stopwatch is not part of this anymore, so we're not going to have nearly as much Stopwatch poaching. At least unless they got this wrong and it's still in there. Possible, but who knows. Armor, MR, Ability Haste. So it's the same kind of baseline, but there's Ability Haste on it. Unbreakable, active, 100 plus double your bonus health as a shield. So you're not getting damage reduction, but also you're getting less durability overall. The 100% bonus health was already the case, but this is getting cut down by like 2,000. So yeah, no Cho abuse. I'm actually happy with this one. I think this is a positive. It is a gigantic, gigantic shield. It's a whole lot of durability. It is, sure, it's worse than life, but the big difference, though, this is meaningful. The big difference is that you can use this on offensive champions. Like, you can just go jump in as Zac, cast your ult, be like, okay, they're not CC'd anymore, pop Stoneplate, run around. Like, imagine, think about all the fighter items people buy, right? Every single fighter item has health on it, outside of, like, maybe Ravenous Hydra. So you're gonna have 1,000-something bonus health in this, which means you have a 1,100 shield active. That is better than Sterix in most cases. That is better than Ma. That is better than Death's Dance in most cases. Fighters should feel great about poaching this item. AD carries should not like as much because your shield is 100 plus 250 maybe? Like, bonus health doesn't exist on AD carry items, and it doesn't exist much on mage items. Actually, some mages can do it, right? Fighters can do it. Mages can do it, depending on the build. And tanks can do it. Singed can buy this item and feel good about it because he's going to go buy Riley. He's going to go buy his like fake Leandries. And he's not going to lose all his damage while pressing the active. Like, this is pretty good overall. Also, if you're a support, you probably buy Solari, but you can buy this afterwards. Taking damage from a champion grants 3% bonus armor and 3% bonus magic resist for 6 seconds once per enemy champ, capped at 50%. So, I don't know if this is 3%, like, because the wording's not always consistent. Is this your total MR is increased by 3%, or is it your bonus MR is increased by 3%? I'm going to assume it's total. Overall, pretty solid. Here we are with the item. Not quite gold efficient, but it's because the active is the important part. We're going to go ahead and use like 400 as a real baseline. Let's use 400 as a real baseline. 400 max health shield is worth 1,000 gold, which makes the item efficient already by itself. Fortify 3% armor MR, obviously quite good. Even if you do like 3 times armor plus 3 times MR, which is like as 100 of each, it's still about 100 gold worth of stats per champ that hits you, which is not bad. It's not a ton, but it's there. This item is totally worth it. Now, old stone plate, yes, very, very good item. This stone plate, still very good item. Passive change to increase damage on immobilize instead of being an aura by itself, right? It's doing a lot of, if you immobilize someone, you get the thing. They're using that as a more common trigger. Don't hate it. Don't love it. I think it's fine. More streamlined use case. It is Giant Spell Negatron Cloak. Of course, Catalyst is gone. There is no mana on Abyssal Mask anymore. It is just a health MR item and a very simple one at that. No other stats. There's 2 stats on it. And if you immobilize, they take 10% increased damage. So I want to point out, right, we had the AP one, the 100 AP. If you hit them from far away or immobilize them, you deal more. Now it's you have your teammates deal more, 10%. It's not magic only. If you're Maokai, this multiplies your, Sunfire Cape, damage stuff. Like, you got stuff going on. Cool beans, you got stuff going on. Good for you. I'm a fan. This is good stuff. 4 seconds is pretty solid. That's enough time to kill someone. So this looks pretty good. This is maybe a Rakan item. Malphite. Cool stuff. Here's efficiency. You are paying 700 gold for this. If we use ability power as our example, 35 AP costs about 700 gold. So now this, of course, multiplies the rest of your team, not just you. A 10% team-wide damage amp, I think, should cost like 700 something gold. That's actually pretty reasonable. But yeah, I mean, you are taking a haircut to do this. You are going into offense by doing this, which I think is fine. Thornmail exists. Bramble Vest Giant's Belt. Right? It's less armor skewed because it is the Thorns item. 2700, Bramble Giant's Belt, health armor, sure, okay. When struck by an attack, you still get Thorns damage. 10 plus 10%. Apply 40% grievous wounds. But immobilizing enemy champions grants grievous wounds. So now, when you are playing Maokai and you need to deal with Dr. Mundo and Soraka and Yumi and Silas and Vladimir and all these magic damage champs that you want to get grievous wounds on as a tank, it's less bad than before. I think there is still work that can be done here. I think there is still work that could be done to say, hey, Bramble Vest is 40 armor. Let's stop. Let's Bramble Giant's Ruby Crystal. Let's go 500 health. Let's go 40 armor. I don't think they should armor bind this heavily. It's better than it would have been. It would have been 250 plus 80, like up here. Or, where is it? Here, there we go. So I moved the needle. It's less trash against Silas. But it's, you're still buying 60 armor. It's 1,200 gold. It's a lot. But you get Thorns. If they hit you, they get grievous wounds. If you immobilize them, you get 60% grievous wounds. Thornmail, again, you are paying for the passive. Do I have a Thorns thing? I don't think I do. No, I don't. That's fine. You're paying basically 200 for Bramble Vest. I think is actually the math there. So it's like, we're moving on. But there's a better version, of course, right? There's actually more damage going on. You get the Empowered Grievous Wounds. It's still a good item. Zeke's Convergence. We now get the support tank options coming in of legendaries. Zeke's was very powerful, limited small windows, so now we once again use Immobilize as the trigger. Cheap item, Kindle Glacial Shroud. This is the only other Glacial Shroud item in the game. It's Zeke's and Frozen Heart. Health, mana, armor, haste, sure. Designate an accomplice. Sure thing. For 4 seconds after you mobilize an enemy. So much like Abyssal Mask, Immobilize makes them take 10% more for 4 seconds. After you mobilize an enemy, your accomplice's attacks and abilities apply 25 to 50+% of max health, plus maybe their AP. Magic damage to that enemy. I think it's your max health and their AP. Oh no, sorry, it literally says it. Your max health, your AP. I'm a dum-dum. Now I want to point out, there is no Frostfire aura like the old Zeke's, which made it like a Braum only kind of thing. It means if I land a Zyra root, it goes off. Now, do I love 300 health and 30 armor on Zyra? No, I don't. But, you know, if I land a Jano Tornado, go, have fun! I think this is worse on regular tanks because regular tanks get nothing out of this. This is definitely support tanks because, like, regular tanks have to go side lane. Like, they have to lane against Darius. Like, Maokai has to lane against Darius. You don't want this item when you're laning against Darius. You want a real item. You buy this when you're Nautilus or Tahm Kench or something. Actually, Tahm Kench is never going to buy this because, holy crap, you're never going to mobilize anyone. But Nautilus is, like, big pog. It's, like, free as hell with Nautilus. But, yeah, you could buy it on, you know, Nami with some AP. You know, get your bubble out, get your ult to land. Leona, sure. Your max health, your AP, has 300 health on it, and they get 25 to 50 on hit damage. So, what do we got going on here? Well, Zeke's, health, armor, mana, haste, pretty efficient. Convergence, 25 plus 1.5%. Yeah, I mean, we're doing 25 plus 1.5% of 2,300 health, right? So, you know, if we divide by the on-hit math, it's 60 on-hit damage if we have 2,000 max health. Like, right? 0.015 times 2,000. Yeah, that's the math, right? And that's if I have 1,700 before this item. We're doing a lot of on-hit damage. This is, I mean, we're literally doing 60 plus on hit damage, and later it goes, the higher it goes. This is quite good. This is a lot of on hit damage. Attacks and abilities, by the way, right? So you can go bind to Cassiopeia and make Twin Fang do 60 more damage. It should stack with Rage Blade. Should stack with every low cooldown spell in the game. Defile. I don't know how often that's going to happen, but maybe every time? I don't know. Lay Waste, Pog. Very good stuff. So this is not using level 18. Like, this is using 25 plus 1% max health. Like, this is hugely good. 1,000 AP would be 75 more damage on hit. That's not going to happen. But hey. Knight's Vow also updated and exists. Cheap, health regen, haste. Armor is gone. Knight's Vow is not an anti-physical damage item anymore. It is Crystal Embracer, Rejuve Bead, Kindle Gem. It is just health, CDR, haste, and a lot of regen, by the way. 3% is a lot of regen. An ally is worthy. Shorter cooldown than the old one. While your ally is worthy nearby, take 50% damage from them, which is upped from 12%. You don't heal from them, but you get regen. And if they are low-ish, run fast towards them. So take 50% from them, run towards them fast when they're alive, and it is not armor-based anymore, which I'm a fan of. Like, I'm always a fan of items that are getting less and less bound from armor and MR if they don't make sense to be bound to armor and MR. Is it straight worse than before? I mean, maybe. It is a bit more efficient on its own. Obviously, you have to know if you care about 900 gold worth of regen, but honestly, regen's not that bad of a stat. The damage regen comes back a little bit better. 35% move speed is what we're mathing out right here. It's interesting. Like, sometimes the armor went to waste in the old item, sure. The damage reflection is better, which is a nice thing. And realistically, health regen is the kind of stat you want when you're taking damage from someone. So like this item, I want to say actually does feel more complete a little bit. And the move speed is relevant. Soraka does in fact have very, very bad base health regen. So that is kind of rough for her, but non-Soraka. So I think Senna's really low as well, but other stuff is not too bad. It might be too weak of an item, but that's okay. Morellonomicon. Also pretty cheap, by the way. I want to point out that we have 2,500 gold for the brand version, basically. Healing reduction is actually quite cheap. It's under 3k, mostly across the board. I mean, Thornmail is pretty cheap too, right? 2,700. Yeah, that's not bad. So getting access to good Grievous Wounds got cheaper this season. That is a pervasive change. It got more accessible, and it got cheaper. Healing reduction got a lot better this season. It's a big upgrade, big change, big difference. Blasting Wand, Oblivion Orb, which is Executioners for mages, and Ruby Crystal, so very similar build. 70 AP, 250 health, and 40% Grievous Wounds for dealing magic damage, and then if they are below half, 86%, right? So Thornmail is if we immobilize, there is a Chemtech Fumigator or whatever, which is if you immobilize, but Morellonomicon, Chainsword, and Mortal Reminder are all, if they're below half, increase the effect. And in all these cases, right, Oblivion Orb versus Executioners versus Bramble Vest, you can only ever access 40% until you upgrade, and that unlocks 60%. I like that. I think it's a good thing. I'm a fan. But Brand and Zyra have access to healing reduction reasonably cheaply. More champions have access to help the team. I love it. Efficiency, not horrible. We can just kind of... wait. Oh, wait. No, it was like 275, right? So we just do that. I know that Oblivion Orb probably costs a bit differently than Executioners, but it's close enough for a reasonable like logic. And yeah, I mean, we are pretty efficient. We're basically paying the upgrade to get better Grievous Wounds, right? If you're at Oblivion Orb, you can just keep buying health and AP and then get better Grievous Wounds. It's a reasonable choice. Sanguine Blade is Serrated Dark Vamp Scepter. It is attack damage, it is lethality, and it is physical vamp. It is almost Omni-Vamp, but not for any magic damage you have. Not that a lethality champion would have any magic damage, so who cares? It really could have been Omni-Vamp. I don't think it would have been a problem. Like, really, this just could have been Omni-Vamp. I don't think it would have hurt much, but whatever. But AD, lethality, vamp, and frenzy. While near one of your physical enemy champions, you get lethality and attack speed decaying over time if they get too close. This is pretty much exactly old Sanguine Blade. Except that it's now physical vamp, so it works on spells, so you can sustain up between waves. So, what we got going on here? Well, pretty inefficient, but of course the attack is going to matter. We're going to bump the attack speed to more like 40%, because, again, we're getting it later on to the game. We're not getting it first item. Again, I really, really wish Riot made all these items level 10 to level 18, so it made them easier to compare. But, oh well. Efficient item if you're alone, not efficient if you're not alone. Not really surprised. This actually should probably be Omnivamp and not Lifesteal, so it's a bit more like this, because obviously Lifesteal can never affect spells, but Omnivamp does. So, yeah, solid item. Seems pretty good. But again, only if you're really going to be alone. Otherwise, you have to find something else for your healing options, which, to be fair, are a little bit limited. Maybe Ravenous Hydra, because Omnivamp. Okay. That is the rundown of all the reworked items. Next up, we have small changes to legendaries. It's not a huge problem. Not a lot of huge stuff, but we're going to basically scroll through them pretty quickly. So, Bad Cab says, if you make it all level 10 to 18 scaling, doesn't that make items much stronger if you buy them early? Not really. Because you mostly can't finish those kinds of items until about level 10 anyway. It's a bit different for bot lane / support because you're sharing XP a bit more. But level 10 is actually pretty close to the time where you finish those items regardless. So at the end of the day, it's kind of the first level you're going to use regardless. Like if you really care, then like pick level 6 or 7 or something. Like something that is absurdly too low, but it is literally impossible to get a Sanguine Blade at level 1, and it's impossible at level 5 as well. And yet it's scaling on numbers that you can never, ever, ever use, right? AD carry gets the first item at level 8, assuming no kill gold, and that's with shared XP. So for a top laner, level 10 is totally reasonable. So why not, right? Why not, pick 8, 9, or 10 as the starting level? Because then those... then on top of that, as we're seeing from chat, yeah, you're also usually rushing mythic item. You don't have to, though. Could that break practice rule? Not really, no. Because you just say, if I'm level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, or 10, just give me this number. Right? I think it is a strict, it is a objective improvement to the game. If you make level scaling on items that cost like over 2,000 gold, start at level 7 or higher. It improves clarity across the board. 8 to 18, 10 to 18, it's whatever, right? Okay. So, let's go to the next stuff. Legendary item balance changes. Fully upgraded support items count as legendaries. We talked about that a little bit ago. Rapid Fire Cannon. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through these, and then I have them all in a spreadsheet. So Rapid Fire Cannon costs 100 more gold. You get 5 more attack speed. You lose 5 crit chance. Overall, this is a nerf to the item. Especially because crit in and of itself provides less damage. Storm Razor, 500 less gold. 10 less AD. 5 more attack speed. 5 less crit. This is pretty close. Mercurial Scimitar, 500 less gold. It is now QSS Agility Pickaxe instead of Quicksilver Vamp Pickaxe. So Vamp became Click of Agility. Total cost went down. Lose 20 AD, lose 5 MR, lose 10 lifesteal, get 20 crit. And yeah, they're clarifying that QSS does not work against Airborne anymore. Off we go. You also still get move speed on Mercurial Scimitar. They just didn't mention it. Pretty close, and honestly, just like this being reachable as an upgradable item is, I think, okay. It's reasonably efficient. We'll talk about it later. Hurricane costs a lot more money. 800 gold cost increase. So instead of being Zeal Dagger, it's Pickaxe Zeal Dagger. It has AD on it now. Crit chance goes down, AD goes up, move speed goes down slightly. The bolts scale over time, but we are spending a lot more money. Now, to be clear, 25 AD, right? It's the same attack speed still. 25 AD is 875 gold. So we're getting 875 gold with attack damage, losing some crit, losing some move speed, more Hurricane bolts. This is a good item overall. Rylays costs 400 more gold. You get 50 health and more of a slow. Blasting Giants Amp Tome, Blasting Amp Tome Ruby, right? Because now Giants is coming in because they're making Giants belt slightly smaller and give 350 health, so it can be in more components, which I'm a fan of. Good job. Giants belt is Pog. So I will say that even though this item is more expensive, the build path is a bit nicer, and there's more going on. I'm okay with it. This was too cheap anyway. Nasher is same cost. Stinger Fiendish is gone. It's Recurve Blasting Amp Tome. Because it is losing CDR, the on-hit damage is going to scale harder. It's more AP. Looks pretty cool. Bloodthirster, slightly cheaper. Good. BF Vamp Longsword. BF Cloak Vamp. Okay, so BF Vamp Cloaks at a BF Vamp Longsword. So crit, a little bit less AD. AD went down by a fair bit. 20 crit versus 25 attack damage is pretty close. Overall, exact same item. Otherwise, it's a bit cheaper, so not bad. Edge of Night, same cost. Serrated Pickaxe Ruby. Serrated Longsword Ruby. So small, a little bit of a smaller item. They just want to make Edge of Night a slightly smaller item because Assassins were a little bit too good and the item was a little bit overtuned. Sure. Yomu's more expensive. More expensive. Loses CDR, gets 5 AD. Obviously, a direct nerf. Serrated Caulfields become Serrated Pickaxe Longsword. Sure, of course. And this is part of it, right? Is like, hey, this is the move fast item, not the like. It actually does line up with Yomu's what it wants to do, right? It's get in there for your burst, not get in there so you can take a long fight. Like, this actually is good shaping to the item, I think. It also keeps you from, like, just throwing a ton of CDR or ability haste at assassins, so I'm kind of about it. Umbral Glaive, 400 gold more expensive. The combined changes, serrated Warhammer instead of serrated Longsword. Sure, so it's, I mean, this has now kind of replaced the Yomu's build path, but whatever. And it's now got 20 haste. So 400 more gold, 20 haste at a 10 CDR. That is also a nerf, by the way. Guardian Angel lost 5 attack damage. Warmogs, 150 more expensive. CDR became haste, and the regen is basically the same. So Warmogs got objectively nerfed. Spirit Visage, 100 more gold. Less MR, less overall cooldown because haste is slightly worse than cooldown reduction, but now increases shielding as well. Haste is functionally CDR, just slightly worse. Dead Man's Plate. Same cost. Instead of Chain Vest Giant's Belt, it's Winged Moon Plate Ruby Chain Vest. Because they couldn't quite stack everything in with the Giant's Belt. That's okay. It's too bad, but whatever. More health, less armor, right? I really would have liked to see Thornmail go here and Dead Man's Plate go here, but oh well. Still, Dead Man's is a more agnostic item. It has % move speed on it, so it's same cost, more move speed, more health, less armor. Okay, that might be fine. Ardent Censer, unchanged cost, very reshaped though. Forbidden Idol, Blasting Wand. So, no reduction, no move speed, it's just more mana regen. So this item is like definitively weaker, but Ardent Censer was super OP before. Redemption, more expensive. Also, 2,300, right? We're trying to hit the same costs over and over again. Mikhail's going to be the same. 2,300 gold. Kindle Gem, Forbidden Idol. I want to say, like, these are generally speaking better items. Crystal Embracer is kind of trash, and Old Forbidden Idol was also really trash. So more shield and heal power, more haste. This is overall, I would say, in most cases, a buff. Regen's gone. So you lose 50 health regen, you lose 50 mana regen, but you get 5 more ability haste, you get 10 more shield heal power, which is awesome. And no longer damages minions, and no longer gains from heal and shield power, which is fine. So, basically, this functionally had 30 shield heal power on it. This now has 20% shield heal power on it, and you have access to in other places. This is maybe a nerf overall to the item, I would say, but that's fine. Redemption was still way too good. Mikhail's is 2,300 now as well. It's got a small rename, but whatever. Chalice is gone as well from the game, by the way. Chalice has been deleted. It is Forbidden Idol Negatron instead of Forbidden Idol Chalice. More MR, more haste, and now it's remove CC except airborne and suppression. So they still have to buy QSS for their own suppression, which is still true. And restore health, which, by the way, scales with shield and heal power, right? I think this had 20 on it, and this has 20 on it. So, like, if you go Redemption Mikhail's, you have 40 shield and heal power. This is, 150 plus 40% is like 240. This is actually a pretty meaningful amount of health. It's pretty solid. And I'm, in general, a fan of simplifying, right? Getting rid of mechanics when you don't need them. Getting rid of mechanics like this when you don't need them. Redemption now no longer has a health regen. It does have flat health, but I'm a fan. Magi's, following along with Darksteel changes. And by the way, Magi's is a legendary. A bit more expensive. No mana, but it has some health. This is overall a downgrade if you needed the mana, but whatever. Zonia's Hourglass is arguably a better item. For 400 less gold, you get only 10 less ability power, which is a big positive. And 10 CDR is close enough to 10 ability haste that this is a better item overall. They buffed Zonia's. Don't know what they needed to, but they certainly did. They also buffed Arm Guard. It's really strong. Banshee's Veil, also the cheap option. So they're saying, hey, the defensive options are cheap now. You can rush the defensive options, okay? You can just do it this way. All right, you can get them very early on. It allows supports to go for them as well. So when you're Janna and you're like, I'm just dying to Zed 24/7, I got to be able to play League of Legends. Yeah, 2,500 gold is a lot. It's, you could have bought a Mikhail's, but this is actually achievable, which I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of defensive options, like for normally offensive classes, like, oh, I need a thing, being fairly cheap to get there. I'm okay with this. So we have Banshee's Veil the same way. Fiendish Codex. They have new MR Arm Guard, Verdant Barrier. The item is trash, by the way. Fiendish Codex, Verdant Barrier, some gold, and it's 65 ability power, 45 MR, which is I think what Zonia's has as well, 10 ability haste. It is the exact same stat line as Zonia's, but Banshee's Veil has the Spell Shield. Zonia's has the active. I think the Zonia's active is also still better than Spell Shield, but hey, I still like that they are very, very similar. They could probably just lower the Spell Shield cooldown or something. They're also changing how jungle items work. This is pretty fun as well. Oh, let's go into the efficiency thing. Okay, so let's actually compare them. Oh, sorry. It's right. Okay, so we're here. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at how efficient the items actually are now. Okay, because we saw balance changes. Are they OP? Are they underpowered? What's going on? Is stuff playable? And this is in the title. It is how many stats they lost, like how many stats they lose, how many they lose in cost. On the other side, what is the actual item efficiency in and of itself? Okay, so here's what Rapid Fire Cannon is. You are paying about 700 gold for range and sharpshooter, and a 120 damage energizer with about 500. This item is as efficient as before, right? It lost some stats overall, but it also got its cost down. If you like Rapid Fire Cannon before, you can still like it now. Stormrazor lost a ton of stats because of all the AD it lost and got a bit cheaper. That said, Stormrazor was the most underrated AD carry item in the game, and no one bought it. And I kept telling people they should buy Stormrazor and they should go double BF builds on Caitlyn. Stop going Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon, Shiv, whatever, who cares? Get a damn Stormrazor. That item was busted. This item is 95% gold efficient after getting nerfed by 400 gold. I was right, okay? Yes, triple BF builds on Caitlyn were the best. I was right. Buy a Stormrazor. This item is still good. Now, and let's compare, right? Rapid Fire Cannon versus Stormrazor. They cost the exact same amount of gold, which, hey, now idiots who argue with me on Twitter can't be like, yeah, but Stormrazor costs more. I want a power spike with Rapid Fire. It's like, well, they cost 2,700 now. This one's still more gold efficient. We have the exact same passive functionally, except that you get range and I get a slow. And I get way more stats than you. This item is better, okay? Let's move on. Mercurial Scimitar, I want to double check the price is actually correct here, that I didn't mistranscribe it. Yeah, 2,900. Okay, we were right. So Mercurial Scimitar got cheaper and lost less in stats, so Mercurial Scimitar got buffed. Now, you lost Lifesteal, and you know, being the only Lifesteal item you bought, that was, you know, maybe considerable here. But we already know we spend 760 for the QSS cleanse, which means this item is gold efficient, right? From Quicksilver Sash, going the rest of the way to the upgrade, is gold efficient for a crit chance, a bit more MR, actually I think is no more MR, but attack damage and crit chance. If you want AD and crit, upgrade from QSS and get your mythic passive online. Renance Hurricane, up 600 gold in stats, up 800 in cost. Because it lost crit chance and it lost 2 move speed, we did not make up all the way for pickaxe. But, you know, we are getting Wind's Fury bolts. Those are obviously very, very good. They scale over time. In fact, if we look at them, this is a, right, level 10 to 18. So it is going to be 40% when we first buy it. Right? The 40% actually comes into play. It will actually be at 40% at some points in time. I love this. This is good. It just makes it weaker than, you know, maybe it looks like on paper. Thank you, Swim, for the 1,000 raid. Welcome, everyone from the Swim team. I appreciate you. Renance Hurricane. Honestly, as long as you're willing to like Wind's Fury, still a solid item. I'm also glad that's the same move speed as the other Zeal upgrades, that they didn't just, like, change those around. All right, Riley's Crystal Scepter. Got some stats, but it got a lot more expensive. Yet it's a nerf to Riley's. I mean, they also buffed the slow, which is pretty meaningful to be clear. It's a 50% increase in slow potency, so should still be a solid item. Nash's Tooth lost a little bit in stats because technically it lost ability, it lost CDR, but it gained AP. Also, it gained AP ratio on the on-hit. I think a lot of Nash's users didn't actually need the CDR / ability haste, so this is a buff to a lot of Nash's users. Should be pretty good overall. Both of those lost a very little bit in stats, lost even more in cost. Overall, still a good item. You can see it's very gold efficient without the shield. It's gold efficient without the shield. Bloodthirst is going to be in a lot of 80 carry builds. A lot. I mean, I'm going to buy this stuff like constantly. Oh, it's such a big deal. This thing is, ooh, it's so good. So good. Yomu's Ghostblade lost gold in stats and then got more expensive. It was nerfed, but hey, guess what? Yomu's very, very good. Very, very good item. Dead Man's Plate lost a little bit in stats overall because move speed is a fairly cheap stat. Still, though, pretty solid. Ardent Sensor lost a bunch in stats. And hey, by the way, still more than 100% gold efficient. 10 on hit damage. We did it at 5. We'll do it at 10 because of level scaling. So 10 on hit damage is worth 250 gold. Efficient item. Good item overall. Heal and shield power. Great stat. Looks good. I just take one thing with Ardent Sensor real quick. Make sure I didn't mistranscribe, but I'm pretty sure I'm fine. Yeah, I think it was 10% the whole time. Redemption. Plus 700 gold worth of stats. Because of the heal and shield power going up, the haste going up. Plus 200 in cost. I'm not sure I'm right about this one. We got 10 shield heal power, which is, by the way, like 550 gold. Which the math actually supports that. That's actually pretty fair. We got more haste, which is an improvement. We lost some regen. We lost some mana regen. Yeah, that's fine. We gained 700 gold in stats. We got 200 more gold in cost. Redemption is super dank. Yes, the active arguably got a bit weaker. Still super dank. Mikhail's depending on if... Okay, so Mikhail's Blessing, not counting the Chalice health regen, it got 230 gold worth of stats added to it. If you do count the health regen from Chalice and whatnot, and I think with a support item as well. Let's see, so... yeah, so 100% mana regen to get 100% health regen is worth 300 gold. So this basically gave you... Because you wouldn't always have to buy it with a enchanter item, right? Like, there's a lot of Relic Shield, like Janna. So this item gave you 300 gold worth of health regen, if we're not counting here, which is what the slash minus 70 is. More expensive, but it's also more stats. These are all good stats to have. And the cleanse, of course, now heals as well, which is a big deal. Also, it's actually always at least 140 healing, because of the 20% shield and heal power. Well, okay. And level scaling, so yeah, I mean, quite a good item. This is still overall a very, very good item. Machias Soul Spieler, technically, because health and mana costs, it technically went down in stats. That said, plus health is a better stat for Machias. Plus 200 golden cost. The Dread is the same, I believe, all around. It is not gold efficient for a while. Every 5 AP is worth 100, so you need 9 stacks, right? You need 9 Dread stacks for this to be gold efficient. Okay. And realistically, this means like 9 is basically the same as 10, right? They're very similar numbers. So essentially what it comes down to is upgrade Dark Shield when it's fully stacked. Then it's worth it. If it's not, don't do it. Easy. Zonias and Banshees. Let's do those real quick. You can see these are about the same gold efficiency. The big difference being that MR is a slightly cheaper stat overall, just because of how items and components are built out. But these are basically 100% gold efficient, and you either get Stasis or Spell Shield. So we can see that Zonia's Hourglass went down 260 in stats. It went down 400 in cost. They buffed Zonia's. They nerfed Banshees, right? They nerfed the stats by 538, and it made it a lot cheaper. And I just... It didn't feel like... So I will say one thing, though. One thing about Banshees is Banshee's Veil was... what is it? It was intentionally a really crappy build path. Because back, in season like 2015 or something... every mage rushed Negatron Cloak first item, and they eventually went Abyssal Scepter, and it meant that mid lane couldn't die. You just couldn't kill each other, and you sat on a Negatron Cloak with like 45 MR on it, and you just couldn't die because it's just too much MR, and it was not a problem. And so Riot was like, all right, screw that. They separated the items out, and they made Abyssal Mask, made it a tank item, but they gave mages Banshee's Veil as an AP MR item, But even though it gave like 60 MR, they said it's not building out of Negatron Cloak. It's building out of Null Magic Mantle. You can set a Null Magic Mantle all game long and then upgrade later on. You don't get to set a Negatron Cloak. And even though the item gave way more MR than Negatron Cloak gave, they said, no, we're not letting you sit on such a big component. You've got to go all the way or sit with a piece of crap in your inventory. And it's not like Null Magic Mantle was bad. It's just like it wasn't going to make you invincible. Banshee's Veil now has a build component. Now, it's not a very good build component. I want to be clear. Verdant Barrier is the new MR Arm Guard. It's not very good. But you don't have this really, really annoying, like super expensive plus 800 gold combined where you're waiting for 3,000 gold to get your item online. It only costs 2,500 gold. Verdant Barrier it's not as good as Arm Guard, but it's not absolute garbage. It works out in the end. But that's where we are, right? That's where we are here with these items.